Marvel might have already given away the opening scene of Avengers Doomsday. And if this theory is right, it could also be the brand new post-credit scene being added to the Avengers Endgame theatrical re-release on September 25th. A lot of people assume the extra footage would simply return to Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter after the ending of Endgame, showing more of the peaceful life they finally got together. But that idea never really made complete sense because the Russo brothers have always treated that ending with a lot of respect. Interrupting Steve and Peggy's final dance just to set up another movie would cheapen one of the most emotional endings in the MCU. After the Doomsday trailer was shown at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, a bunch of new information started appearing online. Looking at everything together, it feels like the pieces fit into a different picture. Instead of beginning with Steve and Peggy, Doomsday may actually open with Victor Von Doom, and the new Endgame scene could exist specifically to lead audiences straight into his story. Kevin Feige confirmed that the September re-release of Endgame won't simply be the same movie shown again. He said fans would get never-before-seen footage along with a few surprises. Joe Russo went even further by explaining that the new material is actually part of the Doomsday story itself. According to him, they wanted to create a direct bridge between Endgame and Doomsday, calling it a critical companion that prepares audiences for the next Avengers film. That wording matters because it suggests something bigger than an ordinary post-credit tease. Plenty of movies end with a quick jump forward that introduces a future event. Marvel has done it before, and countless franchises have used the same trick. If all they wanted was Steve and Peggy sitting in their house before Doom suddenly appeared, there would be nothing especially unique about it. Joe Russo specifically described this approach as something different, so it probably isn't just another simple time skip. One theory has been floating around for months, and recent evidence makes it look much stronger. At the end of Avengers Endgame, after the credits finish, viewers hear several metallic hammer strikes while the Marvel Studios logo appears. When the movie was originally released in 2019, Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers explained that the sound was meant as a tribute to Tony Stark. It reminded audiences of the first Iron Man movie, where Tony built his armor inside the cave with nothing but scraps. It was a symbolic way to close the Infinity Saga because Tony's journey started with those hammer strikes. But although that explanation still works, Marvel could now give those sounds an entirely new meaning. Instead of representing Tony Stark, those hammer blows might become the first sounds of Victor Von Doom forging his own armor. The re-release could simply continue where the credits originally faded out. The screen stays black, the hammering keeps going, and suddenly audiences are looking at Doom inside his armor workshop. That would instantly connect Endgame to Doomsday without rewriting the original ending or touching Steve and Peggy's final moment. The biggest clue appeared during a recent update from composer Alan Silvestri. He shared a photo from the beginning of Doomsday's scoring sessions at Abbey Road Studios. Also visible in the picture was longtime Marvel editor Jeffrey Ford, who has edited nearly every major MCU film alongside the Russo brothers. The interesting part wasn't the people in the photo, it was the screen behind them. Displayed on it were the words Interior Armor Room Doomsday. That line is important because it's formatted like a screenplay slug line. Every screenplay uses slug lines to identify whether a scene happens inside or outside and exactly where it takes place. During music recording sessions, composers usually watch footage or early edits while writing the score because the music has to match every moment precisely. Sometimes completed footage isn't ready yet, so the screen instead shows concept art, storyboards, previous animation, or even the scene heading from the script. Because this image was shared at the start of recording sessions, there's a good chance this was one of the earliest scenes being scored. That naturally raises the possibility that Interior Armor Room Doomsday is actually the opening sequence of the movie. If that's true, then the Endgame post-credit scene almost writes itself. Imagine watching the September re-release. The familiar 6 hammer strikes play during the credits exactly as they always have, but on the final hit, instead of fading away, the sound continues. The black screen slowly reveals Doomsday in Latveria. The hammer keeps striking metal until audiences finally see Robert Downey Jr. unmasked as Victor Von Doom, forging his famous armor. That visual would mirror Tony Stark building his first Iron Man suit almost shot for shot. It would also create a clever parallel between the two characters because both are brilliant inventors building armor for very different reasons. Marvel loves visual echoes like that, and using Robert Downey Jr. in both scenes only makes the comparison stronger. The Doomsday trailer shown at CinemaCon included dialogue that also fits this idea. Victor warns that something terrible is coming and says everyone may soon face an unthinkable decision. His voice reportedly carries a heavy Eastern European accent, possibly something close to Romanian. At first, that dialogue seemed confusing because the trailer also showed Doom fighting Thor. If he's already battling the heroes, he probably isn't stopping in the middle of combat to calmly explain the approaching threat. But if those lines actually come from the opening scene, everything fits much better. Victor could be speaking to someone close to him before events spiral out of control. It might be his mother, Cynthia Von Doom, whose relationship with Victor plays a huge role in Marvel Comics. Her fate has always shaped many of Doom's motivations. Although the MCU could easily change parts of that history, the emotional purpose would stay the same. Another possibility is that this version of Victor has a daughter or another loved one he must leave behind because of whatever catastrophe is approaching. The exact identity isn't really the important part. What matters is that Doom isn't introduced as a simple villain. He's introduced as someone who sees disaster coming before everyone else. That idea also lines up with how Joe Russo recently described the character. He called Doom one of Marvel's most complex figures because he's a scientist, inventor, genius, and magician all at once. More importantly, Russo said Doom is always several moves ahead of even the smartest heroes. That's the kind of description you give someone trying to solve an impossible problem, even though his methods eventually become terrifying. There are also lingering questions from Fantastic Four First Steps. One detail that never received an explanation was the empty seat reserved for Latveria during the Future Foundation gathering. Since director Matt Shakman never clarified it, there's a decent chance the answer was intentionally saved for Doomsday. The theory suggests Victor comes from the same Earth introduced in Fantastic Four First Steps. In that universe, Latveria could still be developing into a powerful nation, while Victor works as a scientist pursuing solutions different from Reed Richards. Although both men want to protect the world, their approaches are completely opposite. Marvel's early description of the movie after Robert Downey Jr. was announced included the phrase, "New mask, same task." At first, that sounded mysterious, but it probably refers to the same goal Tony Stark spent his entire life chasing, putting a suit of armor around the world. Victor shares that objective, although he reaches it through far darker methods. According to this theory, several years after the events of Fantastic Four First Steps, Victor realizes his universe faces an incoming multiversal incursion. Worlds are literally on a collision course, and ordinary science can't stop what's coming. Reed may have even accelerated those events through his experiments with advanced teleportation technology. The film hinted at multiverse risks before, so this wouldn't appear from nowhere. Victor's answer is to build new armor infused with powerful magic rather than relying on technology alone. That magical armor may eventually become the foundation for Battleworld, allowing Doom to preserve fragments of collapsing realities by holding them together himself. Instead of protecting only one Earth, he tries to save pieces of multiple universes because ordinary solutions are already useless. That could also explain one of the wildest shots described from the trailer. Apparently, Doom casually stops Thor's Stormbreaker with 2 fingers while pushing back its lightning. That's an absurd display of power because Stormbreaker isn't just another weapon. It was forged specifically to rival the Infinity Stones, and it nearly killed Thanos even when he possessed all 6 stones. So if Doom blocks it that easily, raw technology isn't enough to explain what audiences are seeing. Magic almost has to be involved. That matches Joe Russo's description of Doom as both a scientist and a magician. His armor isn't simply advanced engineering. It's something operating outside the normal rules that govern space, time, reality, power, mind, and soul. Without that extra layer, stopping Stormbreaker would be hard to justify. And that wraps up today's video, folks. If you want to stay in the loop with all the latest movie and series news, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a big thumbs up, because I'll be bringing you more updates on upcoming movies before they even drop, So keep an eye out for that, along with the latest on your other favorite shows and movies. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.